The Brandon Peters Show may contain explicit language and detailed plot points. For more information on the show, stay tuned to the end of the episode. And now, here's Brandon.
Welcome back to the Brandon Peters Show, and welcome to the first of a series we are calling Products of the Panic, today featuring a discussion of the 1989 documentary, Hell's Bells, The Dangers of Rock and Roll. And joining me today from the Saturday Evening Post, graphic policy and creative spark shooter, my brother in Baphomet, Troy Brownfield.
Thank you for having me, brother Brent.
Thank you.
Good to be back.
Yes. When it comes to these things, satanic panic things, I'm utterly fascinated. But I consider you, Troy, to be like when you have like historian under the thing. I would consider you an expert. So there's no other person. I pitched this series out to you with you in mind. Totally, I'm like, hey, you want to do satanic panic stuff? And it's become this. We kind of didn't have it, but then I'll talk later. But like something happened. I'm like, this is what we'll do. And this is the first of our series.
It's get me to talk about the satanic panic stuff is kind of like the podcast equivalent of, hey man, you want to grab a beer?
Yeah.
But yeah, and actually I have to say, we're recording this in November, but I did wear the jack-o'-lantern shirt because you and I also have a history of doing Halloween episodes.
Yes, we do.
WNUF, Mr. Boogedy, and so forth. And I'm like, okay, well, I didn't do an actual Halloween episode, but it's close enough. I'm gonna,
close enough. Yes,
represent our
after
long-standing affiliation.
There we go. Of course. The satanic panic is, you and I, no strangers to talking about it. My previous program called Cinema Cavalcade had a couple episodes of that, including something that would qualify in this category, the Products of the Panic, Mazes and Monsters TV movie with Tom Hanks about the dangers of Dungeons and Dragons. And Troy goes over a lot about the background and the history, a short history of the satanic panic within that episode. But Troy, for those coming in who might not know what the satanic panic is, you want to give a brief rundown of this insanity?
I'll try to do the TV guide / Twitter version of it.
Remember it like Michelle does.
Yeah. For those that don't know, the moral panic. Let me start there. Mm-hmm. There have been a lot of different moral panics throughout history, going back centuries. And, they had a Greek one about music centuries ago, which is actually referenced in this video we're going to talk about. They had, in the 50s, it was juvenile delinquencies and comic books and all these different things. And in the 80s, that was the satanic panic. And there are a lot of cultural forces that made this happen toward the late 70s. But there was a kind of a decade-long freak out that all of these different things, be it horror movies or heavy metal or Dungeons and Dragons and different things, were feeding this rise of Satanism. And there were some books that were associated with that made people think that the devil was under every bed, and all of these different things were happening. And it isolated. It would have been a thing and burned out, but throughout the course of the decade, they all got rolled together in some of these books and talk shows. And it really is concurrent with the rise of the sensationalistic talk show in the 80s that kind of fueled it. And so it had a pretty solid run from about 1979 to about 1990 or so. And by then, the culture found other things to be angry about. and they kind of, moved on to, hip hop and other things as far as what, was terrifying the old white people. But and you can joke about parts of it, but the downside of the satanic panic was that it was very hard on a lot of kids, particularly outsider kids. It was also very hard on certain companies and professions. Like some of the guys that worked in gaming and stuff had a real hard time. And so there are a lot of negative effects. But as far as that goes, you either talk to people who are of, Gen X mainly, who remember it with great clarity, and then other people who may be slightly younger, whatnot, who have no idea that it ever happened. And I think that there's a concentration that if you're in the Midwest or the South and the West Coast, maybe not so much the Northeast as much, but definitely Midwest, South, and West Coast, you experienced a lot of it. And it went on for some time.
And I think it in the Midwest probably had the biggest hangover of it too, as well, where it lasted far longer than it probably did on the coast. If it was there throughout the 90s, there was still droplings of
I think it's fair to say that the Robin Hood Hills murders, the West Memphis 3, was probably a really good example of the 90s hangover of satanic panic, everything that happened in that particular case. If you're unfamiliar with that, there are 3 HBO documentaries that deal with everything that happened and then the aftermath and then, what it actually took to get those guys out of prison. So
is there any correlation between the television series Dallas and the Satanic Panic? They ran about the same time.
I would say that, Quincy and Chips had more to do with Quincy and Chips very famously had the anti-punk episodes that were part of the music freak out at the time.
Gotcha.
It was more that like punk causes violence, punk causes, and so they were trying to figure out a thing to point fingers at. And
that's funny. So there's the things that came out during the time of the Satanic Panic that were like, propaganda. That's what pretty much what they wind up being. That this series is going to consist of like these kind of documentary movies and such that were products of that time. Like something I would consider something, what would you say, like the Amityville Horror would even be something you could flip into that time, even though it's a little earlier, but it fits into some of the popularity buying into all that.
Yeah, I think that, you've got there was a 77 book, the 79 film, and, that 79 slot, it fits.
Right.
And, even though the movie doesn't include, Ed and Lorraine Warren by name, it does have a Rod Steiger's priest character, kind of like discovering evil really does exist. And, but, there's a lot of things that people forget about too, like the pervasive power of the Inquirer in the 80s. They had regular articles on Ed and Lorraine Warren stuff, and they ran excerpts from the books we referenced, like Michelle Remembers and whatnot. Those magazines were being consumed by, millions of people.
They're at the grocery store checkout lane. That's where people, there's the Inquirer, was it the Star? Was that one of them? Yeah. And all sorts of, like, the Bat Boy thing comes from this shit. Like, it's all sorts of stuff that you wouldn't believe people would believe. But if you're questioning stuff about the Satanic Panic, the best comparison is QAnon right now. And look at you don't believe, oh my God, I can't believe people believe this. That was the QAnon of the 80s
the QAnon is the 2020s reboot of the Satanic Panic, because, and without going too far afield, since this is kind of the introductory episode, but the similarities between the QAnon pedophile blood drinking story thread and the things that happened or that were alleged but didn't happen in, say, the McMartin trial in the 80s are the same story. They are very apocryphally the same story, and there have been a lot of articles in Slate and other publications that have tracked how elements of McMartin were lifted and installed into the QAnon conspiracy.
Basements.
Because basements when there's no basements. And that's happened twice. the Pizzagate thing and the McMartin thing they're both alleged to have abuses going on in basements when buildings that had no basements. They're built on slabs. It was just literally not a basement. It wasn't like there was one hiding under the slab. It was ground.
Right.
And the similarities are,
just because you can't see it doesn't mean it's not there, Troy.
Yeah, right. The similarities are by design. It's a feature, not a bug.
Mm-hmm.
And so
people crazy. So this first piece we're going to be discussing is Hell's Bells, The Dangers of Rock and Roll. It's directed by Eric Hollander and Eric Holmberg, who also hosts. Hell's Bells explores and examines ideas of seeming Satanists and occultists looking for parallels within the world of secular rock music. It's a 5-part, 3-hour documentary. Yes, we watched the whole thing, both of us.
It reminds me of the Porky's line. I sat through every disgusting minute of this twice.
Twice. I want to first send a huge thank you to my old space show co-captain Jim Dietz, who sent this my way when I was telling him about what Troy and I were going to be working on. He's like, "Have you seen Hell's Bells?" I'm like ACD. He's like, no, hey, hang on. He's like, I caught it on Twitch one day. I was like, all right, and yeah, he sent it my way. It's on. You can find this on YouTube to watch. It's on archive.org. So that's why I don't feel guilty telling you it's on YouTube for free to watch, because it's on archive.org. And you can listen to us talk about this and go, what the fuck? Or you can have the what the look on your face and come back and hear us discuss it if you want to spend 3 hours diving into this whole thing. It's produced by Reel to Real Ministries. Real as in movie reel, to real as in actual life thing ministries. So okay, where to begin with this, Troy? It is overview. This is the perfect example to me, and because I watched it in a 3-hour succession, all 5 parts together. I don't know how it came. I don't know if it came as a 5-hour thing when it came, or 3-hour thing when it came out, or if you got it in VHS installments. Anyway, this is a shining example of, if I keep talking and just pulling bullshit out there, you will believe it. Like, just there's out of context quotes. There's sure it came from the Bible passages. What Bible? I don't know. There's a lot of just I just keep talking. And while it says rock and roll, I think it just means pop music in general, or whatever's popular, because they consider Madonna rock, like hard heavy metal. Like, okay,
yeah, the 5 parts, they play as if they were timed out for youth group, teen Sunday school, that you would watch it in a series and discuss. That's the vibe I got.
Okay.
And once in my teens, I even saw similar videos, kind of hoping this would be it, because I don't know, but that one included video with the very obscure punk band Warlock Pinchers. And the funny thing was, at the time, that tape was going around, like at least my group of friends, and my friend Terry actually wrote those guys, and they wrote back, and it was hilarious. They were hilarious, and like they sat down to do an interview with this thing just so they could be assholes. And I would like, maybe I'll find that video as we're having this conversation, because it's very much in the vein of this. But they had a song that had a cheer in it that was like Satan, Satan is our friend, power of evil, dirty word, Satan. Like, they were really like being, they were screwing around. But it was totally within the bandwidth of this.
Yeah.
And it was pretty, I remember at the time, it was like, have anybody ever heard of this? And I'm like, me, I've heard of it. How do you heard of them? They write, my friend. But this whole vibe, that it's a very, every installment starts out with this kind of earnest presentation, like, we're very concerned for you, And then it goes from like maybe a place of, hey, when you're listening to a band like Venom and they're talking about like human sacrifice and so forth, or are you sure you're okay? And then it goes so far afield in everything. It's like, by the way, Madonna. By the way,
Yeah.
they spend a lot of time on Prince. And when they bring Whitney Houston into it, poor Whitney.
Oh God. There's the part with Whitney Houston, and they're like, she may be whatever on the outside, but and then they look at these pictures.
Stars in music, they said.
Look at these pictures, and it's one of her just like sitting there like this, and it's just like that. Her shirt's up, her T-shirt is up a little, and you can see her navel.
Yeah, it's the cover for Whitney. It's the cover for her second album.
It's the most harmless picture you've ever seen. Like nuns don't dress as clothed as she is in this picture, and they're all like, "What?"
Yeah. I mentioned this off camera to Brandon, but one of the most distracting things of the whole bit is that this Eric Humberg dude sits at an angle the entire time, and it's to the point of distraction. It's like 3 hours. I was starting to feel concerned, like, wow, man, am I in my head? Am I making fun of this guy and he's got like a bad neck or something? But at the very last scene, he finally sits, looks straight at the camera. But I don't understand was he trying to seem kind of informal, like
hey kids, like he'd pull the chair backwards and be like, hey,
so you listen to satanic music, but it's the whole presentation is very weird. Another thing that bothers me in a 2020s context is the music clearances on that. They didn't pay for anything.
Well, that's the thing. I was gonna say, I was like, for all these evil bands that they have concert clips, music video clips, interview clips, behind the scenes clips, and using the songs, were they paying these evil bands to use them? Like, you're funneling Satan if you are.
Yeah,
but
that kind of baffles me. I figure that at the time it was made, it was probably there was like a fair use shield that they were hiding behind for like education purposes or whatnot. That
tax exempt bullshit. Yeah,
those rules have changed a lot. But if you look at the YouTube video in the See More section, they have the BMI listings and everything for all those artists. And I think it's to avoid music strikes, to keep it from getting taken down.
Okay. Gotcha.
But I don't for a minute believe that, King Diamond cleared
right. Yeah.
anything for Merciful Fate.
There's a lot it's also serves as an inadvertent advertisement for some bands I'd never heard of. It's like, they look interesting. Cool album cover.
That's one of my big takeaways from it was, it's 1989. You're a kid in Iowa. You've heard of Guns N' Roses, but have you heard of Susie and the Banshees?
Yes.
Have you heard of Bauhaus?
What? Yeah. And the funny thing is like watching this, like, look at this awful stuff. I'm like, this is kind of cool looking. Like, who would be like,
they mispronounce a lot of bands and musicians' names too, to hilarious effect. Which I think is pretty great, which is, like there was a research room that was writing the script and handing it to it. It's like, how do you say this? Oh, don't worry about it.
And the slander is off the charts in this. Holy shit. They referred to Madonna as an ex-porn star.
Yeah, that really struck me. And
I was like, what?
If you don't, that goes to the exaggeration of terms. Like it's kind of a rhetorical, device. I'm saying this like to potential audience members, not to you, Brandon, because
yeah.
But when you're setting things in rhetorical strategy and you're trying to provoke a response to the other one, you'll exaggerate the terms. Of Madonna, it is well known that when she was starting out, there are two things that were known about Madonna. One is that she was the first drummer for the band The Breakfast Club, and second is that she posed for nude photographs that ended up being published in both Playboy and Penthouse later on after she got famous. They appear to be alluding to those nude photographs, but there is a really big marathon of distance between they took pictures of me naked and porn star.
Right.
They just do not care about establishing that boundary. They just drive right through it. They say whatever they want to say about every single act that they cover.
And just cut through it. No, there's wild accusations of murder on here and all sorts of shit. Well, we'll hit on them, but my eyes were like, holy shit. Like I could not and you mentioned this perfectly when we were messaging each other back and forth during this, but like every time you think you have a handle, okay, I get this, they turn the corner on fucking crazy. Like they're like, oh yeah, we're going to 11. Oh no, 12. Guess what? We skipped 13 and 14. We're at 15 here. And it is bonker. And it ends like in terms of like crazy ass ideology and just stuff that you can't believe someone is spewing at you and people will buy into. Man, this thing is just an epic climb with a epic finish and just.
Yeah.
I mean, to you and I, 3 hours of our time probably well spent. To some others, I don't know, but we do. So with this, we do open with this big ass disclaimer before Eric Holberger, whatever, if he's not going to pronounce people's names right, whatever, where he's like, I hope and pray you'll get something good, even life changing. Nothing personal is intended. I'm not going to bother to take time to cite my sources.
Right.
And
that's beautiful.
I'm not trying to control what people listen to, and the bedrock of truth that lies beneath, armed with truth and understanding. Like, okay, like I'm not going to cite sources.
Well, you know what that reminds
me of? But
he
does cite Bible passages. He won't cite where other things come from, but he'll cite Bible passages.
You know, the comic fans among you will be familiar with Dr. Frederick Wortham's Seduction of the Innocent, which he published in installments in like Good Housekeeping and whatnot, and then made into a book that tried to take down comics and really did screw EC Comics in the 50s. That book is completely unsourced. Every single interview he says where he's like, I interviewed a kid that said, I want to grow up to be a sex maniac, or every kid they interview, there's no sourcing any kind of that. I've actually read the original book. I got it on loan from the University of Iowa when I was working on a paper in grad school. There's no sourcing. There's no endnotes. There's no footnotes. It's just assertion.
Right.
And that's what this is in video form.
Right. It's the old, I don't want to pull. This is, in my experience in life, what I've noticed with things on one side of a political equation is when things are coming out like truthful, but they're not what that somebody wants to hear. They go off on the side and do their own thing that says what they want to hear, even if it's not backed. Yeah. They create their own news stations. They create their own books, their own things. Even if there's nothing factual behind it, it's saying what they would want to hear rather than what's actually happening. And that's a gigantic problem.
I think that's the cousin of something that you mentioned that I know we'll get into more, is the idea of taking a quote out of context, and in particular taking a lyric out of context that, no matter how good or bad lyrics are, writers put together a song structure where one lyric follows another. And if you take it out absent of the things that hang around it.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Or what you meant.
And same with the Bible quotes he's using.
You
same
can make
with that.
anything sound like anything.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah, exactly. It goes both. So I'm not, not just his, ooh, bad music, evil, Satan, awful music. Look at this one line. Yeah. Your one line of Bible might not around it being, oh, awesome, good, wholesome. Damn, these damning things. We do get right up the top. It's a teaser for later, but he does the record playing backwards, so people recording and if you play it back, it'll say like, eat your mom, kill your father, drink blood, cheers. And he does one on an album, but it is absolute bullshit and totally fabricated.
Yeah,
totally. Like, it does not sound like you're playing. It's so clear as day. When you play stuff backwards, it doesn't play like, it's not like, hi, Troy, my name's Brandon. It'll be like, hi, Troy, my name is Brandon. This one, he plays the yep, 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 yep. And he goes, let's play it backwards now. And he goes, the brainwashed do not know they are brainwashed. It's not that clear. Like, you are full of shit, Eric Herbergalgen. Like,
Yeah.
wow.
So,
right off the bat, bullshit.
I think it was. I don't remember which member of Led Zeppelin it was. I want to say it was Robert Plant. But in the book, Hammer of the Gods by Stephen Davis, one of the kind of, really good bios of the band, Plant makes a comment to the backmasking controversy by saying, if we knew how to do that, what we would have put on the music was buy our record.
Right.
He's like, hey, buy our record, buy posters, buy tickets, and he kind of gives it a laugh because,
yeah,
it's nuts. It's hard enough to make an album. Can you imagine 5 guys agreeing in a band, like what subliminal message to put in recording backwards after you've been in the studio for 15 weeks?
Yeah. Let's for shits and giggles. I know we fought about things this morning, but let's add some more in there for production guys want to do it. Yeah, no. I didn't expect to, so they shelved that conversation I'm like, oh, they're getting to interesting stuff right away. They shelved that. So I never imagined I'd see a clip from Back to the Future in this.
Yeah. But
we do. It's Marty at the beginning where he's plugs in the amp and blows up, and like he's talking something about it was when Michael J. Fox goes, rock and roll, and he goes, that's right, Mike, rock and roll, and it freeze frames and fades like, okay.
The destructive power of rock.
Yeah. First focus, he talks about this Hurried Child book, which has this quote like, unless you are deaf, it is guaranteed that rock music has shaped your world. And it points out that teens spend more time listening to rock and roll in their lifetime than they will in the classroom.
Whatever. The hour breakdown that they give of that is kind of hilarious because it's, okay, like the average kid spends 7 hours of instructional time. Yeah, so you're saying that they go home and spend another 7 hours,
right?
Specifically to Merciful Fate, and then dinner.
Yeah, like, yeah, of course they will. Like, yeah, I mean, what? So stupid.
Oh.
Like, stupid facts that don't matter.
Yeah,
like, they'll spend more time putting on clothes in their lifetime, probably. Like,
yeah, but it's 2 parts. It's like the more rhetorical strategies, like the unprovable, like the rhetorical fallacy, and then the Gish Gallop, which is like they throw so many things at you that while you're trying to refute the first one, they've hit you with 4 more false assertions, and you don't have time to debunk everything.
Right? No, there's so much shit going on that I forget about the shit that was pissing me off before because I'm onto this. Like, it's insane. Yeah. And for a person who's gullible to it, it's more belief. Like, someone's susceptible to this bullshit. There was a rad picture of a kid with like a headphones on and a guillotine looking up, and the guillotine was this disc, like a compact disc getting ready to chop. I was like, it's kind of a cool image. I was like, I'll buy that. We do get to open the Satanic Bible in this, which did they buy a copy of it?
Alexander Zendor LeVay. Yeah, you didn't have, this is before clip services and stuff. This wasn't clip art.
Did they make an under the table trade?
Maybe there's a guy in Walden's books in between stuffing chick tracks into Dungeons and Dragons guides, taking pictures. We've got to go get this film developed so that we can put it in the
we have our first big celebrity as a Satanist accusation on the John Lennon. That's the first one. They tell a story about him throwing condom water balloons at people from a balcony and pissing on them and yelling some Satan stuff.
Yeah, I am 100% certain that the peeing on fans from a hotel balcony in New York City is made up because the FBI was so hot to arrest Lennon for anything.
Yeah.
It's like if you can arrest Morrison in Florida for allegedly showing his penis during a concert, then they would have had, they would have had Lennon at Rikers. As,
or the addition that he was saying Satan stuff to them while he was doing it. Yeah, that's probably if this story has any semblance of truth, that Satan like, oh, Satan will blah blah blah, that added for effect. Can't check it, and I'm not going to cite my sources. Okay, we don't have time. We have a 3-hour music rock and roll, thing to go on.
I love the vaguely Hank Hill accent that you've given.
Yes, it's kind of where he's at. And they also go into this thing where not only are they damning rock and roll, but if you are not their religion, fuck you, because there was a thing where it's like not all religions lead to God. Jesus said no about that. Like, wow. All right.
There is some, if you just kind of stop and look, there's some insanely racist stuff and some, there's little notes of anti-Semitism, and
because they're talking about like, there's like all religions lead to the same path, and they're like, no, they don't. Our fantasy is better than those because we got Jesus, white American Jesus, and that's who's going like insanity. Like, I can't believe they took this opportunity to say fuck all those religions. Like, wow.
Yeah,
Jews, you're going down.
That's right. And they don't really hit Islam directly, but when they talk about the Moroccans and the Jajuka band and so forth, that's they come out as outright there as well.
Yeah. And then they talk about the stuff with this is my favorite quote, where he's like, oh yeah, well, if Jesus was wrong, he was the stupidest man alive. I hate to tell you, but yeah, I'll let him figure it out. Yeah, no, I was like, wow. They're like, go so drastic as to like, you better believe this shit.
Yeah.
This is like, this almost, a lot of this comes across as like, he went to like his classroom of all male, like late teens, early 20s buddies, and like, that are like hardcore religion, and be like, write the like harshest lines you could to make someone feel guilty about not liking my religion. Like and we'll use them all in this. Because he'll be like, blah, 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 blah. And you're like, yeah, boring fact. She's like, stinger. And you're like, oh shit. Whoa. Eric, you are on fire. Chill. Satan isn't even this hot.
Yeah, well, okay. So you had mentioned the invocation of the Satanic Bible, and Anton Szandor LaVey, popular talk show guest in the 70s and 80s. For those of you that don't know, founded one branch of the his version of the Church of Satan, wrote the Satanic Bible. This gets to another bad fact. He does not play the devil in Rosemary's Baby.
No,
as this guy asserts. I mean, that's like kind of an urban legend, and the guy kind of vaguely looks like him, but is an identifiable actor who is in other shit.
This is pre-internet for people, so he could say that shit. People are like, oh, okay. Just like Marilyn Manson was one of the sons on Mr. Belvedere. Not true. Yeah, not true.
Also, Paul on the Wonder Years. That was another one.
Paul on the Wonder Years.
Also not true. But yeah,
Billy Corgan wasn't the kid in Small Wonder. So
yeah, you have these kind of groundless assertions that that keep cropping up, but LaVey is one of the easiest targets because he went out to be a target. He did that stuff because it made him money,
right?
going to the talk shows and being a lightning rod and putting out films like, here's what our rituals look like. Oh my god, look at what the rituals look like. And he's like, money, bring me money, because one of the best things you could ever read was a late 80s article, probably around the same time, in a Rolling Stone issue that was an interview with LaVey, and it was called "It's Hard Being the Devil in a World That's Gone to Hell." And it is a kind of hilarious interview that's all about his thought process. His entire thought process was, I did this to make money and get chicks. I mean, he
so did Jesus.
Like, but yeah, it's like
Yeah. They go here. So there's some other good zips here. Satan tries so hard to convince man that Jesus is not Lord. And then here's one of the, I mean, I'm probably gonna say this is one of the best ones from this thing, but I'm gonna say this many a times. Apart from the crucifixion and resurrection of Christ, which by the way is one of the most logically proven events in our history. Wow. Logically proven events.
And see, I think it's essential for us to point out that it's one thing to be a person of faith.
Yeah.
It's another thing to believe that nobody else has another take on it.
Yeah.
I think that's what always hamstrings any effort like this, because every aspect of the panic comes from a very kind of Southern Baptist interpretation of everything.
Yeah. It's the harshest of, like, what's the Catholicism where the dude whips himself from the Da Vinci Code?
Oh, yeah. Opus Dei.
Opus Dei shit. Yeah. It's kind of, Southern Baptist Opus Dei. Don't question a thing.
Yeah.
Ooh.
So.
Yeah. And then we learned about Prince's Jesus, Prince the musician. His Jesus is not the historical and factual Jesus. It's, in fact, a demonic fabrication. In case you were wondering, in case you were like, what about Prince's Jesus? Well, let me tell you about Prince's Jesus.
So for those of you at home who are keeping the bingo score of which religion did they insult this time, that would be Jehovah's Witnesses.
Right. There you go.
There's also Michael Jackson, which they didn't mention when they talked about Michael Jackson.
No, they wait, so they hold the king of pop till the end. They're like, oh, they ain't gonna tackle Michael. Just you wait, folks. We'll get to Michael. We talk about deaths at concerts for a bit. There's 3 dead people at a Rolling Stones concert, and then there was the 11 people trampled to death at a Who concert, which were based upon satanic ritual events, according to this thing, caused these. Yeah. And I was like, I wonder if there was even some bullshit story about tying this stuff to Satanism and all this stuff. I Googled, not a one. And I'm not going 80 pages deep on Google, but there was nothing ever written that suspected it even.
Yeah, the Who concert was festival seating gone wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And the Stones, I mean, specifically Altamont, which, long story short, Meredith Hunter pulled a gun, pointed at Mick Jagger, and the Hells Angels biker gang that were working security stabbed him.
Mm-hmm.
And then like 2 other people in related violence. But, these are things that were very cause and effect. They were earthly explanations.
Right.
They were.
Yeah.
Yeah, which, and the Who incident killed festival seating in a lot of venues for a long time because, they didn't want that to happen again.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, just all that shit. We get into piercings and self-mutilations. Is what and we segue into the punk rock portion of this. Yeah. Which did you know, Troy, that punkers are kind of innocent in this whole thing? Sadly innocent. They have no idea they're contributing in ancient satanic rituals. They do it, but they have no idea they're doing it. Just
not a bit. Not that.
Yeah. like it just, to me in this video, like it's like just concert going is raising Satan. Like you're like, I bought a ticket to go see Enya. All right. Guess I'm raising Satan. Like what? Like Kenny G's coming to town. Let's go raise hell. Like, no, like what?
It is the everything of any type is bad.
anything new that has evolved in humanity is awful. And if it's not happening at our church, then it's bad. Like,
yeah,
we need the money for collections. We don't need it going to those concerts. Like,
and I do find it funny that you know, there's pop, there's you know, arguably R&B stars discussed. There are metal bands. There's goth stuff, which they don't call it goth, even though
right.
we'll get to that.
They're confused on that.
They stridently avoid country.
Yeah.
They mentioned the blues, they mentioned Robert Johnson, but you know, you would think that in the 80s that there would have been some reference to The Devil Went Down to Georgia.
Right. Or like the Renegade guy, like Willie Nelson, Waylon Jennings, like they're
David Allan Coe is completely absent. And again, for reasons that are probably tied to.
At that point, they're not young anymore. Those guys aren't young anymore. They were there before the panic, and they didn't change much. You know, I don't know. Yeah. That's your dad liked them, so it's okay. They're fine. You know. Yeah. They go into Richard Ramirez, a serial killer who it's AC/DC's fault for him. He's the reason he killed.
Ramirez is I recently watched the Night Stalker miniseries that they did on Netflix, the documentary miniseries, which is 4 parts, very well done. With the talks of the 2 detectives that were on the case, and you know how that kind of spiraled. Ramirez, it should be noted, is batshit crazy. And if there, of all of the serial killers, etc., and everything, if there was an actual Satanist guy, it was Richard Ramirez. But that had way more to do with Richard Ramirez than it did other stuff. You know, he happened to like metal, but he had an AC/DC ball cap and stuff, but he was batshit major league crazy. He grew up in really horrible conditions of abuse and trauma and violence, and became a monster as an adult. I mean, this guy wasn't just a serial killer. He was a serial rapist, child molester. He terrorized California. They were finding cases that he was involved in years after they caught him, that they were figuring out that this was Ramirez. And it's like he had a veritable reign of terror, you know, and the guy could have been into any kind of music. He just happened to be into metal,
right?
You know? But you know, he had a pentagram on his palm and all that stuff. All that stuff was true, but he was, you know, evil on a Hitler scale. I mean, this guy, you know, if he'd had more charisma, but like as a personality, he was like dirty and unkempt and you know all this. But if he'd had like Ted Bundy's charisma, he could have had an army.
Yeah. Okay.
You know, I mean, that this guy was the fact that Ramirez is like the worst possible example of the worst of the worst. You know, and when you're invoking him, it's like trying to hang things off of him. Like, well, AC/DC made him do it. You know, Angus and Malcolm were like, what? You know, like they probably couldn't fathom the idea that they would do anything that would motivate.
Right.
This.
Shits and giggles. There's also a New Jersey murder suicide that they blame on heavy metal here.
Yeah.
And that one, man, they really like, it's some kid who does it, like a young, and not like some teen, like maybe a little younger, and they like have a stretch to tell. Like he had posters in his room, and he listed like, and then they even come back later in this and be like, hold on, this fits our fucking one from earlier, I think. It's like, man, yeah.
That I think the kid was maybe 11. To be honest, I don't ever remember hearing of that case before. Yeah. And you know, it's
and the kid looks like that bad luck whatever guy meme.
Yes, he does.
Bad luck Brian.
Kevin.
He looks
Brian.
Bad luck Brian. He looks like bad luck Brian. I take
he does.
Speak of the dead that way, but to paint a picture for the listeners, that's what he looked like.
It's you know, it's a horrible story, but you know, part of any panic is to look for a reason to ascribe behavior. And that's why they frequently mention teenage rebellion and so forth. It's like, my kids won't listen to me. They want to stay out late. They want to listen to music I don't listen to. Why is that? Oh, Satan.
Yeah. Oh, Satan is trying to take you to hell with him. We then go into suicide, the ultimate satanic deception. And they show a fucking crime scene photo of a kid who shot himself in the head.
Yeah.
Like, what?
Again, no regard for
just
legal
no filter. No.
case.
Yeah. Like, what in the oh my gosh. Like, I was like, what am I like? At first you're like, okay, that's it. That is like, I took it like, okay, I see horror movie, but then when I realized like that's an actual fucking photo, like, oh my gosh, it's black and white, but still.
Right. And not this is not a defense of that or anything, but back in the day, the New York Post and papers were famous for doing stuff like that, like showing actual crime scene photos until it got on toward the 80s that they made them stop doing that.
They probably felt okay with all the photos being published from like Vietnam and stuff like that. So it probably was like, oh, well, we can show police crime scenes.
There was an escalation of that. There's a lot of people that talk about, the anti-war movement was hastened by the actual footage of combat they were showing on TV.
Yeah.
And you saw like really how awful it looked versus the very like sanitized pictures.
The World War II, where it's like, hey,
yeah. But yeah, man, this no regard. And the suicide thing, for historical context, this becomes very integral to the Satanic Panic, particularly with two lawsuits. One set of parents sued Ozzy for the song Suicide Solution, which was about drinking, solution being liquid, and it was about Bon Scott of AC/DC drinking himself to death because he and Ozzy were friends. And then I think, I can't remember which Judas Priest album it was, maybe British Steel, where the two kids killed themselves. The parents said it was because of the Judas Priest record. Both of these were trials that lasted throughout the end of the 80s. Both of them wrapped up around 1990. Both of them resulted in acquittals for the musicians, but it did cast a pall over the late half of the 80s with the does metal cause suicide?
Right.
Being wrapped into the Satanic Panic package, if you will.
Yeah. In addition to suicide, God also hates the misuse of drugs. Their use is a form of sorcery, and it opens the user up to the spiritual world or the spirit world. Why is that a bad thing?
That particular passage of dialogue is paired with the cover with the logo cut off of a D&D manual.
Yeah, yes, it is. Like yes.
The 1986 or so orange spine of the enchanter doing that. It's like one of the magician's books, like the grimoire or whatever. But it's an actual D&D cover, but they cut off the logo because they know they'll get sued if they show that.
right. Yeah. Like, it's insane. Like, why wouldn't you want, like, can I check out the spirit world? No, like, I love God. Doesn't he want to see me? Like, don't we want to go like hang?
We're in the spirit world. It's
spirit world. I go to Spirit Halloween. I can go to the spirit world, right? Like, this God, like, man, does he sound like a bastard? Like, Satan kind of sounds like your buddy. Like, God sounds like he just wants to fucking punish you and be strict. Like, Satan's like, want to smoke some pot? Yeah, you want to rock out, dude? We can just chill. Like,
Misty Mountain Hop, man. Misty Mountain Hop.
Do you know the clubs I have down in hell? Like, fucking, dude, I know Ozzy. Like, just,
Yeah, one club is entirely accordion music.
Yes. Wait till you see the music they're gonna play at the end of this, motherfucker. You want to come to my shows? Like, come on. Then there's a section where they really want to paint George Harrison as a big Satanist. So they're like, we're getting the dead, or well, he wasn't dead at the time of this, but
right.
We're gonna get half the Beatles here. We're still digging up on McCartney and Starr. Okay, we haven't found anything about them yet. We'll show them in this video a bunch, but it's all let in all Harrison.
Yeah. It's worth noting that this is where the slander of the Hindus,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of other Eastern religions happens.
Yep.
You know, that's wow. I mean,
Paint it all on George.
yeah, and they talk about George Harrison was a spiritual cat. From
Yeah.
My Sweet Lord to a lot of other songs. This song in particular, where he talks about Vishnu and so forth, and all these others being manifestations of one God, which you think would be a gentle, loving, kind of thing of like acceptance and so forth. And they're like, see this? How he tries to make them all equal? Satan.
Yeah. If you're not at the Cold Water Faith Church of Christ, then you are not with God. He only comes to Jonestown, Missouri. That's the one. That's where we got it right. Our little that's it. So we got it right. Down the street at the Methodist one, they'll say that, but they are full of shit.
Yeah. I find that as a general principle that you shouldn't go to a church that has Jonestown in the name.
Mm-hmm. There we go into Rad, Rock Against Drugs. Rock and Roll's Our High, and Bon Jovi enters the fold. And because they were at an apex at this point.
Yeah.
And they did. Bon Jovi has done an ad for Rad while maintaining their hedonistic message.
Yeah, John Bon Jovi did get busted for something at that point. It might have been weed. And to get out of jail, he agreed to do the PSA as part of his community service. Which, if you've ever seen that PSA, is hilarious, where he basically describes that he's giving a PSA. He's like, I've been given a script to talk to you about drinking and drugs and all that good stuff. But yeah, I think that I'll go ahead and note this here. Like, when they take the lyrics out of context, they mention particularly Wanted Dead or Alive, in which the song is about being on the road. And he says, sometimes you tell the day by the bottle that you drink. Which is about it's rough on the road and you pass time in ways, and it's, this shit's hard, man.
Yeah.
And they try to make that line satanic. It's like, well, no.
Like, just living life is fucking satanic to these people. Like, like if you wake up and put on your slippers and brush your teeth before you eat breakfast, you might be a Satanist. Like,
Jeff Foxworthy's new special.
You might. Oh yeah, and this guy looks like a Foxworthy relative. A little bit.
Definitely aspirations of mullet.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of comedians, they attacked Sam Kinison, which I was like, yeah, it makes sense he'd be in here.
Yeah,
on this thing. Yeah.
Ex-preacher and all that.
Right now we go to the obsession. Satanic has an obsession with rock and roll has an obsession with sex, and talking about the blatant perversity of the 80s. And they'll remind us that rock and roll is slang for teens having sex in a car.
All true. They're right about this part.
Yeah. Purity and loyalty are the bottom line. Anything else leads to death.
But this is a funny thing too, because it also is a complete chance to overlook, like you said, they leave out the earlier generations of music. They specifically want to tie it to one of my favorite, the idea that rock, or the use of the word rock as a euphemism for sex, has always been present. But my favorite one is Eddie Cochran's 20 Flight Rock from the 50s, where the whole implication of the song is the girl lives on the 20th floor, and when the guy goes to visit her, the elevator's broken, so he has to go 20 flights of stairs, and he gets to the top. He's too tired to rock. And I always thought that was hilarious, because it's totally obvious what's going on there.
Right.
It's like, but if you're gonna go after the sex stuff and mention Elvis the Pelvis, there's tons of songs from the past, 50s, 60s, 70s leading up to the decade we're talking about. They could have lumped any of that. They just leave all of that out.
They don't even talk about Baby It's Cold Outside, and I still have to hear about that thing every fucking winter.
Yes, that song written by a married couple to perform at parties.
Right. Danger. This is where they also touch on the brazenly pornographic style of Madonna. They don't like her.
No.
She is a hussy in their eyes.
Don't they just outright call her a whore at one point? I mean,
I think they do, but they call rock stars modern prostitutes.
Yeah, they definitely did that.
Like, okay. And I also never would have thought of the Bangles as satanic, but they're pinned down here. And you know what though? That Susanna Hoffs is I've assumed is a vampire for years because she's aged. She looks better. Like she's aged very well.
Yeah.
But she is in the Julia Louis-Dreyfus class of potential vampires for me.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I like the Bangles. I think they're an underrated band.
Oh,
They use a clip from In Your Room, which I think is a great song, 1989. It would have been brand new at the point that this video was made. But, In Your Room is an actual sexy song that's, if you lyrically, it's a flirty song, like written from the point of view of a girl to her boyfriend. It's a cute, flirtatious song that also rocks and has some 60s influence with the sitar and everything. It's a fun tune.
Oh,
really
no, for sure.
Like a really good underrated song of theirs. And I'm like, man, you're gonna hit that. You're gonna like, I guess people in a committed relationship can't be flirtatious with one another because that's
right. They also touch on Bananarama here, Venus, which we'll be talking about later in this week. That song isn't even theirs.
No, it's Shocking Blue, which they were Swedish, right?
Something like
1972-ish song.
Kind of rockabilly-ish, kind of.
Yeah, it's a very early 70s rock tune, but straight up, the ladies of Bananarama never looked better than in that Venus video when they're vampires, devils, and everything. It's a great video and great remake.
It's more people know that than the original, so that's your sign of
but it's one of those things when it shows up, it kind of makes me sad. It's just like, oh, they're doing that too. They're doing that, and it's like, and they know that. I think there's an element of salesmanship to this. At the end of the day, like, these guys are trying to move videotapes, right?
Yeah.
And if everything is, King Diamond and Merciful Fate, like, they don't know who they are.
Right.
But
right.
They can get, like, the adults to buy the tapes if they see like Prince and Bananarama and stuff.
This was a point in the thing where I stopped and I wrote a note to myself. I was like, there's a lot of cool artwork on display in this, which I'm sure wasn't the intent of this documentary. Because I was like, oh, that's cool. That's awesome. I
go back to our mythical teenager in Iowa. They got exposed to so many cool bands,
right? Oh, and now that they move from the women, they move to George Michael. And at this point, this is 1989, and I'm like, ooh, if they only knew more about Mr. George Michael at this point.
Yeah, and they kind of highlight the spoken word intro to the "I Want Your Sex" video.
Yeah, and they're really obsessed with father figure. They come back to it later. They like hit it here, and then they go back later. They're all about taking down George Michael.
And I think it's funny too, because in the context of today, a lot of people I don't think realize how huge George Michael was.
He's a phenomenon. He
transitioned fairly seamlessly from Wham to solo artist to massive solo artist.
I think at this point they were basically considering I think he was Wham. Like there was towards the end it was a lot of him too, but he was able to just it went from Wham to George Michael, rather than just a big step, but yeah.
Thank you for listening. The Brandon Peters Show is a Creative Zombie Studios production. Produced by Brad Shoemaker and Brandon Peters. Written and edited by Brandon Peters. Announcer vocals by Jessica Alsman. Theme song by Metavari. Web design and show art by Brad Shoemaker with Brandon Peters. All music and clips featured in the episode are property of their respective studios, and no infringement is intended. Additional information on this and other episodes at BrandonPetersShow.com. For any inquiries, press opportunities, or sponsorship, contact mail at BrandonPetersShow.com. The show is available on Apple Music, Spotify, or anywhere podcasts are found.